This is episode 26 of Ice Ice Beta, a podcast about ice climbing mixed and, especially this summer, dry tooling. And I'm your host, Aaron Gary. How many of you were inspired to start climbing because of a comic? Let's get a show of hands. Come on, don't be shy. Okay, I'm counting. Well, I'm sure Masato Najakima is not alone, but he is the only person I can say with certainty that it is true. And if you're curious, it was Gaku, Minna no Yama, which in English is peak, everyone's mountain. Anywho, Masato is a leading dry tooler in Japan and was one of a contingent from the country who sent a line above the sky last year. Masato is a bit of a late bloomer. At 43, he's one of the older athletes on the UIAA World Cup scene and has made great progress since he started competing in 2016. As one of the elder statesmen in his country, he's trying to grow the sport locally. And despite 5 dry tooling gyms in Tokyo, yes, you heard that right, it's not easy, which we dive into in this chat. Along with that, in this episode, we discuss overcoming health issues and getting into climbing, the history of dry tooling in Japan, efforts and challenges to grow the sport locally, where to climb in the country and the strict no drilling ethos, and lastly, unique perspective from a Japanese expat living in Canmore. Speaking of which, today's episode is a little different because Masato was joined by Takeshi Tani, an IFMGA mountain guide based in Canmore, who helped to translate the conversation. So thank you very much to both Takeshi and Masato for this. We'll get to all of that and more right after a quick message from our sponsors. What do you get when you combine 30 years of ice climbing and product design chops? Well, if you're into gloves, you get Anewho, a boutique climbing brand on a mission to produce the best ice climbing and dry tooling gloves around. Doug, June, and the rest of the team spare no expense in the pursuit of durable, dexterous, and waterproof. Best yet, they are made from recycled textiles, which saves waste from the landfill, and they are robustly built so they won't end up there anytime soon. To learn more about your friend in the cold, head to anewho.com. That is ANIIU.com.
If you're listening to my voice right now, it's because for you, ice season never really ends. It just kind of blends into the next route. Every off-season climb you do is training for the next swing, scratch, or kick. Wouldn't it be cool to never stop ice climbing? Well, Furnace Industries has the ice climbing training gear and dry tooling equipment you need so you can just keep going. They have gym-safe indoor ice climbing tools and the largest variety of dry tooling holds in America. There's replacement picks and front points and all kinds of winter goodies. With their gear, it's always ice season. Check out more ice and dry tooling gear at furnace-industries.com.
To start, do you mind just sharing a little bit about yourselves?
My name is Masato Nakajima. So I'm belonging automotive company, and currently I trying so many dry tooling competition and outside route. So and I'd like to expand this sport. I hope.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Takeshi Tani. I'm IFMGA mountain guide in Canada, living in Canmore over 10 years. I'm going to join this interview kind of translator, but I'm really excited, to listen, Masato's stories to send, really hard, dry tooling route in Europe and also, learning, Japanese climbing community.
Masato, you were talking about climbing in Europe the past few years, and recently you and Haruko Takuchi sent a line above the sky. So first of all, congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment. What does that climb and that accomplishment mean to you?
まず、Line Above the Sky.
He thinks, this route is, definitely kind of special because, it's a, first, a D5 route, confirmed in the world. And also still, just only few routes, he said that, only 4 routes, D5, all over the world. So that's, this route is really, really special for him. And also he felt it's like impossible, to climb a few years before, but he was, training and working on last few years, in Japan, also see, finally he sent it. And then that gives him, a confidence to try more harder route. And also that process to climb a line above the sky, giving him, so many connection that makes kind of his community, and that makes, expand, his kind of, friendship all over the world, because, people so kind to help him.
Was this your first climb of the grade, Masato? And then a few years ago, why did it seem so impossible?
まず D15 を登ったのは実はこれ2本目。
This is actually his second, ascent. Second route, climbing D5. But he climbed the route in France, Hell Cave. But that route is not confirmed D5. Just only route builder say D5, and then he did first ascent. But that route grading is not confirmed. So he feels it's like maybe in the future someone climb that route, maybe few climbers to try that route, maybe confirm in that grading. But he felt a line above the sky definitely are famous first D5 dry touring route in the world. He thinks that's kind of his first real D5 experience in his life. And he said that why he thought it's like impossible to climb a line above the sky, because at the moment he went to same cragging area to Tomorrow's World 4 years before. At the time he barely climbed D13. Even he saw that route, he didn't think to try. That route length, more than double or kind of triple, his project at the moment 4 years before.
Yeah, it's 50 meters long of just horizontal cave. It looks wild. The dry tooling community seems particularly close, tight-knit from around the world, which is really interesting. It seems like everyone knows each other and everyone seems quite friendly, at least from the outside. Do you think that's accurate? And also, I guess, why do you think that is?
実際に世界的にもやっぱり
Yeah,
このスポーツ
he
でやる
said
人た
that
ち
you're right.
多く
It's
ない
like, a dry touring community is quite small, probably every single country. He thinks it's bonding very, very well. So his kind of first, dry touring experience actually in US. And then he has been climbing an overseas trip, France, Russia, other countries, but each climbing, dry touring communities, are really friendly and encouraging, our foreign climbers always. So that's, small community actually makes more bonding well. So he likes that point really.
I'd like to go back to the beginning, because Japan has a long tradition and history of mountaineering and alpinism, and more recently, competition rock climbing, indoor rock climbing. But dry tooling is still quite different, abstract or esoteric or weird, some would say. So how did you get into dry tooling?
一番最初、私はアイスクライミング。
He started, his kind of, climbing career as ice climbing. It's like probably similar, our, background, as alpine climber in Japan. Probably a few years later, he read the, leaflet, Petzl, that page, big picture, some strong climber, climbing, super big route, that route, which called a Bichet D14 in France. So he was so impressed. He wanted to try that route, and after that, it's like dream, that to become a dream. And then he was actually trying himself, how to do figure 4 and figure 9 from the guidebook, but definitely it didn't work. And then he just, waste his time, few years, he didn't get any directions. But finally, he participated in a local ice climbing competition in Mountain Lodge in Japan. He met a Japanese World Cup competitor. And then he finally got great mentorship. And then they invited him, going to UIAA after that. Also, introduced him, local, dry tooling, mixed climbing area.
How long have you been dry tooling, and how long would you say you've been like seriously training? So it sounds like once you met the World Cup climber, things kind of really picked up.
Yeah, he has been ice climbing or mixed climbing over 16 years. But he participated kind of local ice climbing compare since 2014, so like 9 years before, and he was really into it after 2 years, so about 2016. So he has been ice climbing World Cup athlete 7 years.
Inspiration is a really powerful thing. I was talking with another climber who said she had a photo of Robert Jasper on her background of her computer for years and years and years, and it was him climbing Flying Circus. So first M10 trad, really cutting edge at the time, and she just always wanted to be in that position, just looking up at the daggers, and it fueled her. And it sounds like that image in the Petzl catalog had a similar effect. What was it about the image, and like, what were you imagining it might feel like to get on that? And have you come to that route?
When he had that picture, he thought that move, it's like, that kind of cracks move, really big, that picture, that move is so beautiful, just so cool. That's why he want to be there. It's like he want to try kind of same move, as that climber in the picture. It's so simple. And he cannot remember, who climber is, but he was so impressive, his kind of really big move, DTS style. After a few years, he went to there to try that route, but he didn't send it. And then he tried to go back to send it, but that cragging area actually is temporarily closed by wildfire. So he's actually waiting to reopen and then going to there to send it, maybe next few years.
That's awesome. I'm curious about the history of dry tooling in Japan, because Masato, you said that you were sort of second generation, and I'm curious if you know sort of how it got started, and what was the first generation like?
Back to early 2000, three legend climbers who lived in Miyagi Prefecture, maybe 300 or 400 kilometers north of Tokyo, to start build some local dry tooling area. They inspired that style from North America, maybe Octopussy, MA. It's like that's a kind of cover photo Japanese climbing magazine. It's like like ice dancing, moving ice dagger to dagger. So they were looking for the place like same terrain and also conditions as ice forming. And they finally found, our kind of small cragging area, Tohoku, Miyagi Prefecture. So that's a kind of first generation started, it kind of, history of, dry tooling in Japan. And then they also, participated in, World Cup ice climbing, at the same time. It's a small community, but they were trying to passing the torch to new generation in Japan. And then, Masato definitely, he's the person, to keep moving forward, their kind of passion and also, history, in the future.
The lineage of climbing, you're always building off people that came before you. So just for clarity, who were some of the climbers from the first generation And what was the name of the crag?
Their name, three legend climber, especially main climber, his name is Ishii. He built first mixed or dry tooling cragging area, Miyagi Prefecture, which called the Futakuchi. Actually, that area, the wheel gap, right? So he visited, Futakuchi to put his new route, which called Frozen Go, 100-meter water ice 7 or something. But anyway, that's a kind of main area, main dry touring area in Japan. And then Ishii moved to Hokkaido, which is a northern part of Japan. It's like an island. And he built, a second big dry touring area, which called Kamui Kotan. And then their friend, two climbers, their name is Chiba and Nizuma joined his team and then put so many new route, two main cragging areas in Japan. And actually, I actually misunderstand, what he said. They are no World Cup competitor. In Hokkaido, there is one really strong climber as firefighter. His name is Nara. So he attended, like so many ice climbing World Cup and also I think Sochi Olympic, but he attended, demonstrate ice climbing, to Olympic game, in Sochi, probably 2014 or something.
Since you started dry tooling, let's say seriously 8-9 years ago, how have things developed up until today?
Yeah, so when he completed FERC, dry touring, 7 years before, there was no good training area as, climbing gym. But now, there are 2 gyms in Tokyo and also 3 other gyms, around, Tokyo. So he can go to that gym for training, after working. And also that makes dry touring community, bonding well. And also new climber, try to, dry touring very easily. So it's like, there's still barriers from rock climber to ice climber or, mixed climber, but it's definitely, getting smaller and then, more people, moving to communities. That's a good thing. Before COVID, he was attending or, making some, good event to bring a new people, dry touring community in Japan. But now everything kind of slow down or, after close the climbing gym, finally slowing, coming back, but still really slow. So his friends, working on restart, or boost, having some, good, dry touring event or competition and making good atmosphere, welcoming a new climber.
Takeshi, I was actually thinking this might be a good opportunity to hear your perspective because you've been in Canmore for 10 years. And it sounds like when you were in Japan, the dry tooling scene was quite a bit smaller. And I'm wondering what you see today. I don't know how much you've been able to get around.
Yeah. Actually, I talked, Masato, day before, like preparing, this interview. And also I asked, a couple of friends, dry touring climbing scene in Japan. And I'm so impressed, their effort to protect, or growing their community. And then they also, really nice sense, they really, careful to put on new route. So actually there is no dory road or man-made, dry touring route in Japan. That's so impressive. I remember, I think, before COVID, 2019, do you know Raphael Swaronski, right? Black Diamond athlete. And he lives in Calgary. And then he took, 2 strong European climber, Greg Boswell, from UK, Scottish, so, super strong climber to the cragging area, which called the El Dorado in Canmore. So that area actually, put on the so many route as DTS style, without chalk and the man-made hole. So basically, It's like alpine climbing, alpine dry touring area. And, there's a little bit of conflict, good conversation between Wilga and Rafael Slalomski, more good conflict, because, we'll put on the, couple, tip mark, some big moves. And also, some, little bit, tipping, some, marginal hold. He mentioned, a little bit of tipping, making a better hold, protect, that block to prevent, broken the important pieces. Because, Canadian Rockies, is like a limestone, big choice, right? He did, a little bit, improve that hold to protect it, to break, the big pieces. European climber actually so impressed. No man-made hold and also no tip mark, that cragging area. And then you go to other area as Hafner or, famous area, you see so many drilled hold, which is actually fun, but it's like the same as European style. In Canmore, you can choose, your preference, right? But, in Japan, especially Masato, got, that torch from, first generation. He and also his generation respect that kind of nature and the terrain, and then really consider to put new route. So I don't know. Canada is like a middle, like you can see so many different styles because kind of, diversity. But Japan, their background from, strong alpine climbers. So they never try to use drill or, man-made hold before. I'm actually very impressed with that point.
I feel the drill hold there. Not completely.
He said that, he's kind of pretty easygoing. He prefer using a drill hold, outside of Japan, but also he's not strict or not crazy strict. He knows two different styles, and then he respect man-made style and also natural style. He also understand the passion or respect put on the new route or making a route without man-made hold.
Yeah, it's interesting because it seemed like the sport sort of started with man-made development from the beginning, and now it's more evolving towards finding the natural lines. So it's sort of the reverse trend of trad to sport climbing. It was, it's more like sport climbing to start, then more trad emphasis on the purity of a line.
Yeah, he thinks, it's pretty interesting, because, we push the limit, cause making a drill hold, like, it's making a more harder route and, people training so hard and, pushing a limit and also, updating the number, right? But now kind of trending, it's like a natural line, or, looking for, crack system or, weakness or something. So, but that movement made from, the history as, man-made hold. That process probably, definitely we needed to go through to become, a more, strong climber. But also, that man-made route, he met so many climbers, all over the world, say that someone, put on the new drill hold without permission because that route already man-made. So that's new climber, or, someone put on the new drill hold, making, easy. You know what I mean? It's like a downgrading because they cannot climb that route as route builder, but a route builder, using a drill, making a man-made hold, that means like there is no different to climb possible. But in Japan, people kind of respect, route builder, and then definitely, no chance to put on the new hold. That ethic, making a, strong climber in Japan.
Two-part question. With the very strong ethic and the history of alpinism, Where do people fall on DTS? I can take a guess as to which part Japan falls on. And then the second part would be, if there's no man-made routes, but those are the highest end of the sport currently outdoors, how are people getting so strong in Japan? You are quite strong.
He likes more kind of efficiency, to climb, his project. If he needs, figure 4 and figure 9 to climb that route, he does. So he's kind of, pretty open, that doesn't matter, but he also loves, to try DTS style too. And in Japanese community, it's like a similar. It's not too strict, just, try that route only DTS. But if he goes to the area only, DTS style, definitely he respect that local rule too. So he's kind of training both directions. And also in the Japanese climbing community too, but he's really easygoing. So, figure 4 and figure 9, that move, more efficient to climb his project, he does. And then other question, are why Japanese climbers so strong? And then he was laughing, it's like, he's super polite, he just says it's not too strong. But actually, 3 Japanese climbers, including him, sent, D15 this years. He feels, like that 3 members as, World Cup athlete, training together and bonding really well. And then finally, community support, are kind of building, couple routes and also, some, climbing gym as training wall available where he lives. That makes, huge difference. And then now, he told me, there is a, kind of big gap, athlete and, kind of regular climber, because they push their limit and that as kind of world standard now. But actually, that community, there's a big gap, a regular climber. So he thinks, he's kind of, he needs to work on, passing the torch, encourage, regular climber, standard going up in the future.
Yeah, Masato, you said that you were trying to organize a lot of events and build up the community, and that you felt it was, you had the torch and you wanted to help pass it along. So it's very important to you. But you also noted that there were challenges to growing the community in Japan. What are some of those challenges that you're encountering? And, where do you see the future of drytooling in Japan?
He's facing, some challenge, kind of, passing a torch, new generation in Japan for sure. So he's kind of, looking for the place, having the competition as lead ice climbing or lead mixed climbing, area or place, doing competition now. Because, Japanese ice climbing or, training gym, as ice bouldering, you know what I mean? It's like just using ice tool as, a bouldering wall. It's pretty small. So now he's kind of looking for that place or gym, allowing, him or, his community, having, competition as, lead ice climbing. So that's one thing. And then also his new goal, he is thinking to take, UIAA ice climbing route setter course. I don't know, certification or something, but I think, after taking that route setter course, he can make, some great competition. So that's kind of his dream, because that makes, new people coming, dry touring community. And also, that would be, good opportunity. He's definitely, pushing his limit, sending his project to, right? So that's a kind of his new challenge and the goal. Also, working on encouraging, new people going to, dry touring community in Japan.
I can't tell if 5 dry tooling gyms for Tokyo is high or low? Because on the one hand, it's 5 dry tooling gyms, which is quite a bit. I mean, there's like 2 in the US, but at the same time, it's a city of like 20 million people. All of this is to say that at least what I see on Instagram, like Beta and Ice Point One and a few of the others, it seems like there is excitement for dry tooling at least, and starting and getting into it. So are you seeing more new people?
A couple, decent number of new climber, dry tooling gym in Tokyo, which is great. But there is no dry tooling or mixed climbing, cragging area around the Tokyo. So you need to go to, Miyagi Prefecture, which is, 400 kilometer, far north, from Tokyo, which is expensive. And also, gear is so expensive too, right? So that barrier makes people stepping back, that community and, just, switching rock climbing very easy, right? So he is actually working on, some, outdoor maker and also manufacturer, more having a, clinic, introduce, how to, ice climbing and mixed climbing. In the future, he thinks, he's kind of, making a tour, climbing trip, taking a new climber, some other country as, Italy, next year. And one problem, he needs, good photographer because he wants to do some kind of presentation and slideshow, at the climbing gym. But he always, taking a photo for his friend, and that's actually he's the strongest climber, dry tooling, climber in Japan. But his friend, not into or interested in taking a picture, so he needs to bring good photographer, making some advertisement, to introduce new people. And the dry tooling community in Japan.
I only have 3 more questions. Takeshi, do you have any that you would want to add?
No, actually no. But he mentioned, he inspired, mountaineering, from Japanese cartoon. Yeah, so he actually he joined, like a hiking club, when he was high school. And after graduate, he was doing, scrambling by himself, but not climbing. And after a few years, he read, Japanese cartoon, that story, that man who is, search and rescue, is like a superstar, super strong ice climber and a good skier, helping, all kind of, people in accident. It's a really cool story. So he was so impressed with, that kind of cartoon. After that, he just, looking for some, mentor, mountaineering mentor as guide. His name is, Tsubei Portugal, who is an IFMJ mountain guide from Slovenia. So that's a, kind of good way, learning, English, other language, and also, mountaineering both same time. So Sveit was so kind, he just, told him, just come join us, without any equipment. So after that, Masato, completely fucked, mountaineering and start ice climbing, and then found that picture, Petzo, and into a more, dry touring world. But it sounds really Japanese, right? Inspire, starting his climbing career, from Japanese, cartoon. It's probably not common, North America or other countries because, cartoon is more, I don't know, superstar or, like a, Superman as hero, right? Beating some kind of, I don't know, it's completely different, direction. But it's really Japanese. So I'm so I like that story because, this is really Japanese. He inspired, or he started his climbing career, from Japanese cartoon. Wow, that's so cool.
It is a great story. As an ambassador of Japanese dry tooling, if I can say that, if you were to welcome people from around the world to come climb in Japan, what would be your sales pitch to get people to come to climb in Japan?
Yeah, he said that it's the scale is definitely smaller than other country as Europe or North America, but again it's Japanese dry touring clogging area is no man-made hold and no tip mark. That means like on sighting is quite difficult because peak doesn't have any sense, right? You know what I mean? So if you have a kind of confidence, on sighting some hard route as M8 or 9 or 10, Japan would be your destination because all those routes all natural holes. So it's pretty once you get the beta, red point probably kind of easier than the clogging area your home country, but on sighting he found pretty nice because really hard. You need rock off, check any hot, definitely no dino or big move or something. So that means like you definitely need really solid technique and then good endurancing. The good endurance is really important. Climbing, Japanese dry touring clogging area.
So do you dry tool as well?
Yeah, I like ice climbing or alpine climbing. Is my favorite. I still have a tons of motivation. So I went to Nepal 2 years before. Climbing some small peaks, and then I did some kind of good alpine route. Canadian Rocky as Mount Tempo, North Face, winter time, and also Wild Thing. The Barry Blanchard, right? So he put on that route. I think 1986 or something, but it's just beside House Peak, the mountain three athlete as David Rama died a caught avalanche, and also I put some small new route Bacabus and also Canadian Rockies as mixed climbing. So I like more kind of trad dry touring as alpine climbing, but I also enjoy sport dry touring, as bolted route. So I'm not strict too, but I really enjoy, alpine climbing in Canada.
I don't know how many IFMGA Japanese guides are working outside or in Canada.
I think only 3 or 4. I know the guy, who is graduate, New Zealand system. And also, one female, just done the program, in US, female, so impressive, she's so amazing. And then also, I think, one guy, his name is Yuji Hirayama, but he graduate ENSA, French system too.
Is Japan IFMGA certified, or you have to go and study in Europe to go through the program?
Yeah, that's right. Japan is IFMJ country, but you have to go to Chamonix or Zeoma, taking a final exam to become a mountain guide. So that's actually really, really expensive, and then takes more time for sure.
The last question: if you were to give your younger self one piece of beta, what would that be? It can be climbing or not climbing related.
Yeah, he is really happy now. So he actually doesn't have any advice when he was young. But because he was struggling. Back to when he was 20s. He was struggling in some allergy, kind of reaction his skins, and then he wasn't able to climb or do some physical activity at the moment. And then after, late 20 or, close to 30, finally, kind of improving his kind of reaction, able to climb or, do some, hard exercise as, cardiac activity too. That's why he doesn't have a real advice, to him, when he was 20s. But, also he was quite funny, he said, maybe he has one advice, maybe studying, English hard. That makes this interview much, easier.
Yeah,
That's a joking.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a
of
joking,
course.
but I know he's really funny, nice sense of humor too.
Yeah, it seems that way. Well, thank you so much, Masato and Takeshi. I really appreciate it. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you, thank you for having us.
If you'd like to learn more about dry tooling in Japan, are thinking of visiting, or would like to help grow the community, you can reach out to Masato at Masato_drytooling. If you'd like to learn more about Takeshi, we feature an article about one of his routes in the Himalaya in the show notes. And if you're interested in going out for a day of guided climbing in the Canadian Rockies, you can connect with him at Taniyan, that is TANIYAN _8000. Taniyan _8000. As always, thank you to Hannah Noel for providing the intro music and Andrew Salomone for editing. If you enjoyed this episode and others like it this season, please do subscribe and leave us a review. It does help. Thank you for listening. See you all next week.